Welcome to the first of our Eden Story webinars. Thanks for joining us. I think it's going to be inspirational today from Julia and Kirsty, and probably a bit exhausting along with that as we take the journey with them. My name's Chris James. I began with Eden Rivers Trust in July of this year, working on their Access to Eden project as assistant communications and assistant admin, so really helping out across the project where I can, really. This series of talks, the Eden Stories, we've organised as part of the Access to Eden project. It's been funded for 4 years, predominantly by the National Lottery Heritage Fund with £2 million, which is, a big amount of money. So there's lots that we want to do. Logistics today, you won't be on screen. We won't hear you, so relax. If get yourself a cup of tea, do whatever you need to do. We'll be recording today's talk, and we'll send you links and make this available in the next couple of days. So please do share that. During Julia and Kirsty's talk today, if you've got any questions you'd like to ask them, use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen and type in your questions as we go through the talk and as they come to you. And I'll pose them at the end after we think about 40 minutes for their presentation, and then probably about 10 minutes to do a bit of a question and answer session, depending on how much time we've got left at the end. There's a closed caption option for you at the footer of your screen too, the CC option. That will give you sort of live subtitles if you'd like to use those, and it will let you edit those as you like to make the text bigger or smaller if you need, if you need access to that kind of thing, or if you're on a busy train or something, I don't know where you are at the moment, but you might need captions for any number of reasons. Okay. So today I'll be out of your way in 2 minutes, I promise, and then we'll be on to swimming feats with Julia and Kirsty, which is what we're all here for, and then a brief Q&A. So a little bit about Access to Eden. Busy slide, but basically a 4-year project in the Eden catchment, led by Eden Rivers Trust, with some larger partners, Cumbria Wildlife Trust, North Pennines National Landscapes, and the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority, and many more joining us to deliver this project. You'll see there it's called Breaking Barriers and Building Bridges, which says it all, really. We'll be working over the coming years to improve the green and blue spaces in the catchment. We're providing opportunities to volunteers, tools for them and training and skills in surveying and water safety and plant identification, so that they'll become helpful to us in the longer term in the catchment to support the work that we're doing and the partners are doing already in this catchment. So we'll extend our reach somewhat. And it's about giving visitors the confidence, information, and access to explore the area, and making it much easier for them to do so. And we've got 8 doorstep sites on the map here, which will benefit directly from the project. A couple in Carlisle at Petrol Vale and Engine Lonning, where we're providing better access and safer spaces for people in Carlisle. We've got our amazing community tree nursery in Penrith, which is up and running. We've already got lots of residents involved in that, providing trees for use on projects across the catchment. So it's all, it's all helping the wider project. We're doing some wider work across the catchment, which includes things like tackling invasive species. We've removed 200,000 Himalayan balsam plants this year as part of this project, so it's off to a flying start, but there'll be lots to do over the coming years. It's really about getting people into the catchment to enjoy it. And it might be watching a webinar for some people. It might be swimming 80 miles along the River Eden, which we're going to hear about shortly. I'm in the first camp with this, and we've got Julia and Kirsty along for the inspirational part and humbling people like me who have to listen to them. I thought that's probably how it's going to go. So submit any questions you've got today. I'm going to give a warm welcome to Julia and Kirsty, who are going to take over from me. And if I stop sharing my screen, Kirsty and Julia, when you share your screen, just click on your two buttons, which we discussed, to share the sound on your videos, and we'll get started.
A very warm welcome to you. It's great to actually get a taste of what you're up to at Eden Rivers Trust. Chris, thank you so much for showing those projects that you've got up and running. Wonderful to see Wallisfield down there at number 4 on those bullet points of places, because that's exactly where we are right now. We're looking out over the Eden from Julia's house at Wallisfield, where on a visit only a couple of weeks ago when we had our volunteers, we were able to see firsthand and get an overview of the project that you've got going here at Wallisfield. So very exciting. Yeah, so
good. Well, should we introduce ourselves?
Shall we introduce ourselves? Yes. So I'm Kirsty, or Kit, as most people know me, Hollings, part of View from the River.
And I'm Julia Aglionby, and I'm another of the swimmers. We have another couple of swimmers as well who aren't with us today. So our friends Jenny Prosser, who did the whole swim with us, and then Helen Ward, who also participated in some of the swims. So we're a group of 4 friends who swim together regularly in the River Eden. And we're going to start by showing a trailer. So one of the things we benefited from was funding from Fell Foot Forward, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of films and an animation, and we're going to start with our teaser film. It's about 3 minutes, just under 4 minutes, and we'll show that, and then we'll show the main film. Is that the plan?
Yep. And then we'll go into the PowerPoint, which is more chatty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Ready to go.
Paperwork.
Yes.
What's the date? 28.
Right, hopefully these.
What an adventure you've had. Oh my God. You've done it though.
And it.
Most of it. Well done. You've done a heck of a lot more of it than I did. I just did the Carlisle bit, so hats off to these two. Fit in that water because it was so big. I wasn't so worried about the scuzz, it was more the size and the strength and the flow. And
It was quite strong, but it felt better once we were in somehow.
Well, you have to do what you're comfortable with. There was absolutely no point you getting in that day.
It was, you got quite the workout.
I know.
Yes, exactly. We had it easy, Kit, didn't we? We're just floating.
Or
Shooting, and I was running.
This seems to be the moment of truth.
Has it been the river more than the landowners? Oh yeah, no, I don't mind the landowners. We've got Julia out in front.
I'm just the legal advisor.
Old
I'm called
friends
Swim Legal. I've got new services provided. It's called Swim Legal. Because the fish people have a service called
Jenny, I think
Fish Legal. So we now have Swim
new
Legal.
adversaries.
Swim Legal.
Could be
Yeah.
old friends now, new adversaries, you could say.
Because of the glare of the water.
Thwaite sewage works coming up. Oh, where are they? They're just over here on the left. Ooh. We're coming up to the sewage works.
Okay, well, thank you, Julia. We'll try not to fall in. That's very kind of you.
We wouldn't want to do anything as rash as get in the water.
A big rock.
We're self-supported, so we have all our thermoses and our first aid kits and our lunches and everything.
How long have you been swimming today then?
Just from 8:30. It's a 16 chunk leg expedition. So this is day 10.
Any otters yet?
None. We haven't seen otters. We've seen otter halts.
Oh yeah.
And we've seen
People had seen otters.
yeah, and we've seen loads of kingfishers. Yeah, lots of fish. Herons. June was full of damselflies. Sand martins. Sand martins were amazing in and out of the riverbanks. Yeah.
Come in, come in.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you.
I mean, we've seen a lot of brilliant stuff, haven't we, Beth, in
Yeah.
terms of farming practice and
Planting.
the beautiful river, but then we've also seen some examples of poor practice, you know, sort of animals poaching on the side of the river, and there's the perennial issue of sewage spills in the river. And we've got data for 2022, and so I think it's about highlighting the amount of sewage that is actually going into the river. and sort of showing that we care about it, because I think United Utilities need to know that there's people, I mean, a lot of people really do care. If you talk to anyone, they will just say, like, yeah, they really just think it's appalling and they worry about it. And you can sort of see the impact on the river in terms of the smells. Sometimes it's really whiffy, and sometimes there's quite a lot of sediment, and you know.
And there's no excuse, is there? There's no excuse for putting polluted sewage into a river. It's a triple SI, a special area of conservation, designated internationally. And while it does look beautiful, it doesn't mean that it's healthy.
But you know, those statistics you were just mentioning, they're not enough in the public domain, are they? Because when I went on a school visiting Kirby Stephen prior to, with Eden Rivers Trust, and went with the education officer, it was very surprising to the children there and their parents when the data was presented to them. You know, just sewage releases right there where they all play in the middle of their town. Very surprising, and I think if more people knew, and I think that's what we're trying to achieve as well.
I think that's the great thing, is the pollution's been here for a while, but the great thing about people swimming more in the outdoors is that we're drawing attention to it, and nobody wants anyone to get sick unnecessarily, but it just demonstrates that if we go in, if people go into a river for an hour and get ill, and animals are living there 24/7, then they're going to, their whole systems, their whole habitats, their food sources, they're not going to be reproducing well, their young won't be flourishing.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We love revisiting that, don't we?
Yes, it's great.
I know. We do.
Happy memories.
Happy memories of a wonderful summer. It really was fantastic. And our teaser said we didn't find an otter, but no, our teaser said we did find an otter. And then you watched the bigger film, and at the point that we were being interviewed by that lady on the side of the bank, we hadn't seen one. So wildlife was one of the great things about the adventure. We're now going to show you a PowerPoint that just goes through various aspects of the journey and covers things like logistics. And so the pair of us will be talking about each of the slides. We'll do it, you know, fairly swiftly, and then we'll have time for some questions and answers, hopefully at the end. So you're probably all wondering, what on earth did these mad women embark on such a silly odyssey? But we'll carry on with the next. As Julia said earlier on, it turned out to be a micro adventure on our doorstep. You don't have to go to the Amazon. You don't have to go halfway around the world to have an amazing adventure. You can have one right here on the Eden. And this is where it all began, here at Armathwaite, Coombs Wood is where we have been swimming for about, in advance of 12 years, I'd say now. And we always swam the same patch. Look how beautiful it is. A lot of you'll know this, I'm sure. Shall I just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a poem I wrote. And in it, I'll just read it, and you can hear there's a yen in there that wants to know what's beyond the confines of the little patch that we swim.
This was before, wasn't it? Before we did swim.
So I wrote this about 4 or 5 years before we even had the idea. And I called it Song of the Eden Swimmer and slipped it in Christmas cards for my swimming pals. Born of the source, moss high in Malastang, veined by beck, by syke, shadowed by willow, cloud, by geese in chevron flight, fleckled by kingfisher wing, freckled by leaf, seed, thistledown, harrowed by current, rapid, otter flip, moulded by cleft, fissure, drifting boulder. Downstream we ride, on, out, salted, muscled by tide. Next one, yeah. I have to say that poem preceded, it really took Jenny, who's not with us today, but it was on one of our customary Sunday morning swims when, around about the time that the Wild Swimming Brothers, which you may have read about, swam the Eden source to sea, 3 big, like triangle, powerful men, and they were doing it as a sort of physical exercise. But Jenny said, well, if the Wild Swimming Brothers can do it, I don't see why we can't. What do you think? And she threw out this challenge to us, and it didn't really take us any moment to say, yes, please. So View from the River was born. So we got ourselves a logo designed by my daughter Phoebe, called ourselves View from the River, with the strapline, how clean is our Eden? Because really what was propelling us more than anything was the changes that we were noticing in the river, and the fact that much about sewage was being written in the local newspapers and nationally, and we certainly had seen the effects of storm damage and eroding riverbanks. And so at this point, we got in touch with yourselves at Eden Rivers Trust, and we came down on the twin focus of making sewage and buffer strips the focus of our swim, really concentrating on those. And so we had our big View from the River logo on the back, and on the front of our sweatshirts and our t-shirts, we had the route. So we've got the Solway at the top there, and Hellgill at the bottom, and the Eden from source to sea written on the back, because we figure if you've got the route on your t-shirt, you're jolly well going to have to do it. So that was us committed. Now, we mentioned earlier that we'd on the film that we got some funding from Fell Foot Forward, and with this funding, Rosa, Jenny's daughter, made the film that you just saw, and we were going to use that. With Fell Foot Forward, it was all about the legacy you're going to leave, and we knew that we would be able to share this film that we made with the local community and get people interested, and so it's happened, as we'll tell you later. So there we are, up at Hellgill Force, hardly a force on that beautiful June day, but that was June 2023, and there's Rosa with her familiar dead cat. Now, remember those children that I talked about when I was in the river in the film? This is me with Eden Rivers Trust Education Officer Tanya, just off screen there, speaking to a group of primary school children in Kirby Stephen, all about our impending journey. And Tanya had shown them the statistics of what was coming out of Frank's Bridge CSO, which is literally just meters away from where those children are sitting. And as you can see, that is one of United Utilities sort of less than fit for purpose combined sewage outlets that let sewage out most weeks of the year, which was a real wake-up call. These kids are our future guardians of the river, and it's vital that we get them in behind looking after their natural heritage. So Julia's going to talk a little bit about just the logistics of the swim, because it's not something you can just sort of get up and do the next day. We really did an awful lot of planning, and
well, thank you.
Talk about the maps.
Yes, well, we were very it's 80 miles from source to sea, and as mentioned in the film, divides into sort of, in fact, it was 15 days swimming, wasn't it took us. So we're doing 5 to 6 miles a day. In practice, even when you saw at the beginning, we would have to walk through the river. We were paddling a lot. That was very slow. It was like being on a physio wobble board. It took a long time to get there. So we could manage about a mile an hour, and but we didn't. We weren't sure exactly what we were going to find each day, and we didn't do sort of on the ground recce's, but we did use the OS mapping system to really check through and try and guess where there would be weirs, where there were blockages, where we might have to walk around, where would be the ingress and egress points. So we were making sure that we went in where it was legal to do so. So using public footpaths to go in. Because we were unsupported, we would take 2 cars each day, leave 1 car at the end of where we get out, and then we take the car to the beginning of our route. And
so this is day 3, where we started at Pendragon Castle, down at the foot there.
Down at the bottom.
Down at the bottom there, and we came out at Frank's Bridge. So,
but we did, for instance, have to go at Kirby Stephen. There are those Stencrith pools. They weren't safe to go down.
So that's an example of a sort of a team decision to get out.
And we would tend to go down the rapids feet first, as you might have seen, because we wore these special water shoes with Vibram soles. So we would, and if we went down feet first, then we were unlikely to hit our head. We would just bump our bottom. So one of the reasons for wearing wetsuits was both for warmth, but also for abrasion, because the river was often very low. So it was a great expedition. We had all our kit with us. We had this. So we've got a bit more.
So this is the data, the 2022 data that was being mentioned, that Jenny was talking about in the film, and this shows the day 3, the places we were going through, and the wastewater treatment works.
So that was part of our prep, wasn't it? That we would know which wastewater treatment sites to look out for each day. So that was gave us sort of heads up.
Sometimes you could smell them in advance, couldn't you?
Yes, you could. So a little bit about our kit. So we, as I said, we had these self-supporting. So we'd found these things called a ruck raft. So it's a bit like a sort of mini blow-up boat that you attach by a strap around your waist and you swim with it. And it has a large dry bag that it takes on top. So you blow it up each morning, and then you put all your kit in the dry bag, and then we would go along. So we had spare clothing, first aid kit,
baking, hot flasks.
Food was particularly important to us. We were generally very lucky with the weather, but some days it was we got quite cold, and didn't we? So it was physically a pretty demanding day. I mean, some days we could literally at the end of the day could hardly walk. We were completely and utterly shattered. But we would stop for 11Cs and stop for lunch, wouldn't we? So that was lots of happy times en route, and only it wasn't very often that we had a couple of scary moments where we probably would have been better off walking around, but sometimes the river just takes you, and
here we are to tell the tale.
So one of the, do you want to say a little bit about this then, Kit?
I'm happy if you talk about other strips and I'll talk about rubbish. So that's the next one. So if you talk about this slide.
So in terms of we were looking at riverbanks. As Kit said, our focus was both sewage and riverbanks, and there's lots of areas where Eden Rivers Trust have invested and supported landowners in terms of putting up fencing. But often, as Kit's poems say, the river has its own ideas and may well wash out. So if you look at the top right-hand slide, you can see that the fencing is now actually in the river, and the river's been washed out so that the stock can still get down and cause erosion, as well as pooing in the river. So, and then there were other areas where we met multiple vehicles en route, sometimes a large van. This was a car we came across. So we weren't quite sure whether it was a way of fly tipping or it was actually trying to
Propping up the bank.
propping up the bank. So yes, you can see livestock. I mean, livestock clearly require water. The question is the intensity of use and whether it's better these days to have to support farmers by putting in piped water so that they can then fence off the river and keep that safe and so keep, protect the riverbank. I mean, I'd be really in favour of a sort of 20 to 50 metre buffer strip the whole way along the River Eden, and farmers rewarded for that protection.
Rubbish was something that we hadn't set out to pick up straight away, but it was absolutely from day one that we started picking it up, didn't we? Because we'd find yards of silage, plastic, enmeshed in the willow trees along the bank. And we would gather it and put it in rubbish bins, attaching the rubbish bags to the ruck raft, as you can see in the picture there. And the ruck raft made a super aquatic dumper truck, actually, capable of carrying an awful lot. And it was a very easy thing to pull along. Yeah. And if we had too much, what we'd do is we'd put it to the side of the bank, and when we were driving back home again, we'd remember where we'd put the bags, and we'd carry them back and sort them out once we got home, recycle. My job was to curate each day, because we got an Instagram page up and running and gathered lots of followers really on the way. And so each day I'd find a little focus to concentrate on that would and gather pictures up that would show that focus. So day 6, here's an example for you. Bolton to Millrig Farm, a day of engineering, architecture and geography, of bridges, small, medium and large. That one there being the largest. I wonder if anyone can work out which bridge that is. That's a wee challenge for you. Here we have the Sand Martins in their sandbank mansions that Julia was mentioning on the film. They really were truly amazing. And further on down on the Solway, they were magical there as well. And sandstone cathedrals for deep-rooted trees. Of the geography, the river imprints on the rubbish that lies beneath her. That was a day we collected a whole series, it looks like, of treasure maps. And this was well-embedded plastic at the bottom. So how did we travel? Well, as Julia said, sometimes on our bottoms, and obviously the quickest is smooth swimming in deep enough water. But to go from the left-hand side, there are Jenny and I bumping along in various sort of fashion, inelegant fashion. And sometimes we could wade. We'd call it sort of, military style sort of crocodile moving at some points.
Tummies, yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes the going, as Julia said, was very, very slow, but wonderful when we had deep enough and smooth enough water to swim in, because that was just the best. And you saw us sort of watching kingfishers and all sorts at moments like that. Now, we did have the month of July off for various reasons. We knew we could only do June and August. And if you remember, 2023 was very wet. And July, a lot of things grew. As you can see in this slide here, the Himalayan balsam was towering over our heads at the point that we restarted our swim in August. And it had made access very, very difficult down to the river, as Eden River Trust well know, because they have their famous balsam bashing days, don't they? It is becoming a real problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's absolutely crazy on this particular farm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The amount, it was really, in particular areas where there aren't trees, and we need to, it's great that the access,
everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, great. The Access to Eden project's doing more on that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it had turned from Hell Gill, the river was now a motorway really, and here we are kind of under the motorway bridge. And you know, it's a very different river with a lot more water in it and a lot more width. And actually the going was quite a bit quicker then, wasn't it? So there are various points in the second half of our swim. And here we come to the final day, getting ready from Kingarth, the old customs house, just upriver of Old Sandsfield, which was where our destination was. And that there you see Rosa attaching the GoPro to the rock raft, because we'd actually, on one of our previous bumpy rapid sections, we'd lost the head strap for the GoPro. Or no, we lost one of the GoPros, and the second backup GoPro didn't have a head strap. So no problem. The rock raft became filmmaker for the day and did quite a good job of it. And there you can see the rock raft filming Julia swimming as she's towing it down to Sandsfield, which was Old Sandsfield, which is where the locals consider where river becomes sea. And that is where our journey ended. 15 swim days later. Yeah. And here's a slide just to show you, Julia, if you want to talk about this. This is our citizen science project, which has been going since April of this year.
Yeah, so we had a fantastic time on the swim, and it was a sort of, you know, a great adventure for us, wasn't it? But we really wanted to do something more out of this, and part of the funding from Fellfoot Forward was also to sort of start doing some water monitoring, water quality monitoring. And Jenny's a scientist and did lots of research on the best things to monitor. We concluded nitrate and phosphate would be the two we'd focus on. And then we thought, well, it'd be great to do it along quite a lot of sites along the Eden. And we shared our film at a green film event in Penrith, and we put a call out for volunteers. And we've done various other talks at village halls, haven't we, and pubs. And we now have over, is it 25 to 30 citizen scientist volunteers, and they go out in pairs along now. Is it 15 sites on the 12 to 15?
Yes, one or two have dropped off, and we changed one or two, so I think it's 12 actually at the moment.
12 sites along the Eden, and every month, the same weekend, everybody goes out and takes the readings. And then we use a open access website called Freshwater Watch, and that means everybody can look at our results. And we're going to be, we had the funding for a year, but we've now got some more funding from Kendall Calling, and we're also thinking about doing some fecal bacteria counts as well. And we're just, one of our volunteers is a vet, and she's kindly looking into how we can get the testing, the water to the lab. You have to get it really within 24 hours. So that's something we're working on. But we've also been, Kit wrote articles that went in the newspaper each month rather. And then we had meetings with United Utilities as well. So it's all about raising awareness and making sure that water companies are aware that we're keeping an eye on them.
Yes, Jenny and I went to see the wastewater treatment works along with a couple from Eden Rivers Trust, and that was a very, very interesting day, which we'll be able to follow up with some of the things they said they were promising to do in 2026. So it's nice to have those dates written down and see how that all pans out. Yeah.
And here's a map of our monitoring sites. So
some of the ones we've left, but you know, the 12 that we're doing now are range from Kirby Stephen right the way to the Solway and one or two tributaries.
Yes, and then we're trying, if we have more people and more funding. So we started just as 4 friends, and we're now a unincorporated organization with a constitution and a bank account.
I know.
Last week.
I know.
So it's
growing, and with friends sort of up and down the country, really, that we've met or heard about through things like appearing at the Kendal Mountain Festival last year. There's a wonderful group who are working away on the River Avon, and hope to see all these people at the Clean Water March in London this weekend, which Jenny and I are going to head down to, flying the Eden flag.
So that's, I think, probably all from us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'd be happy to take any questions. Sorry we've run over a bit, and sorry for the techie issues to begin with, but
no, I think we're grand. Thank you, Julia. Yes, inspirational. We've had a few questions in. I think a couple really is for people perhaps inspired by what you're doing and the thought of perhaps wild swimming themselves. It's just the safety element. I mean, what would you advise people? Because clearly you know what you're doing, you've got the equipment, etc. I think it's quite important to send the message that, you know, you need to be aware of your surroundings and the environment, and perhaps in groups. So there's kind of a caveat to wild swimming somewhat.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think one of the things with this is that there is just very sadly there are people who die, and that's one of the questions, is that there were people who died, but people who die on the whole, people who die in the rivers are people who are either can't swim and usually have alcohol or drugs in their system.
Yeah.
So while swimming is undertaken by thousands of people across England, and England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, every week, and very safely. There are many more people who die from motorbike accidents than there are who die from wild swimming. The key is that we were very well kitted out, and we have swum in the river for 12 years. We swim all year, usually without a wetsuit. We did a practice swim before doing this. The amount of care and attention we did for health and safety was very, very high. This isn't us just going down on a sort of blown up ring with a few, 10 tinnies along with us, is it? I mean, alcohol and swimming and water do not mix.
Yeah.
I think a responsible swimming, is a good thing. You shouldn't be riding a horse if you don't know how to ride. You shouldn't be driving a car if if you've got alcohol in the system. And I think this is the key is, and the same with mountaineering. Sadly, there are mountaineering accidents as well.
Yeah. The other question really to raise is it's about permissions, I suppose, with river swimming. It's probably worth raising.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Well, you want to explain what you did about writing the letter?
Yeah. So before we started, we came up with a letter to all riparian owners, and this we sent in advance to people whose patch we would be going through, making it very clear that we were entering and exiting by public access.
Yeah.
And we would be passing through, and we would do this 2 weeks in advance of swimming that particular place. And certainly, that was well received. Certainly in the first half of the swim.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a range of views. I mean, the key is not to interfere. Rivers are, and there's a lot of conversation internationally about this, about whether there should be access for both canoeists and swimmers in rivers. What's interesting is that although river owners own the bank and they own the floor to the middle of the river, and then if they've got single side, they don't actually own the water. So the water is Crown property. So it's perfectly legal to swim, in the river. Of course, we were walking, in some areas, and we informed people of what we were doing, and we were respectful. If they said they had fishermen on a particular day, then we would go around, we'd get out and walk around the fishermen. We met about 4 or 5 fishermen in 80 miles. What was extraordinary is how few people we met and how few people used the river. So that's why I'm really supportive of your access to Eden, because we have this fantastic resource here. We had a little more trouble with people closer to Carlisle, and we actually downloaded over 30 title deeds from the land registry. We knew exactly who owned which bit and on which side of the river they owned, and we made sure that we weren't interfering with people where they had strong views about us going through. So we put a lot of effort into that. Again, it's a bit like the health and safety preparation. We made sure that we were respectful of people. I farm on the river. I'm a riparian owner. I own the fishing rights. I'm absolutely delighted if people swim. I think it's a really good thing. I mean, I think there's, it's a bit like the right of access, isn't it, in the trespass and Kinder Scout, and we used to say that people shouldn't walk in the countryside. I think what's really important is how people do things, and that they're not causing damage and disruption when they're accessing the countryside.
I was quite struck by your image of where you're taking all your samples on that map. It looks very similar to our map of invasive species. I think with us, the secret to success is really getting volunteers involved and sort of extending your reach somewhat. So it's fantastic that you've got so many people that have joined in with your sampling.
Yeah, well, exactly. And we're really delighted to work with as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Mention Trinity.
Yeah, so we're working hopefully with, we've had interest from Trinity School, so that's a large comprehensive in the centre of Carlisle. So we are hoping to work with them.
On the GCSE project.
Yeah, to link to their GCSE. So we're really keen to engage with people of all ages. So yes. I mean, I don't know whether you want us to take the question about the wrong image and what was swimming in it. About protecting.
Yeah. If it's that polluted, why are you swimming in it? That doesn't seem to.
Well, I think I probably tried to answer this in the film, didn't I? Where I said that we go in. You might have noticed we did heads up breaststroke for the whole of the 80. I mean, you never saw us do front crawl in the film. So that's something that we were really careful and we tried. And even Kit's poem, you refer to eyes up, mouth closed. Don't you?
Yeah, on the text.
So it's it is important that we know that the river is polluted because it's in unfavourable condition. I mean, the data for the special area of conservation is there. A lot of your work, Eden Rivers Trust, is ensuring we know about 30% of the pollution is from sewage and about 70% is from agricultural activity. And there is a lot of work to do for all of us in terms of how we can enable people to look after the river better. But yes, I think there's pollution and there's pollution. I mean, we're not saying you're going to die by getting in the river, and clearly we didn't, but it is important that we recognise it's not healthy for wildlife, and there are humans who get sick as well, aren't there?
There are, yes.
Fishermen as well.
We heard of one case about a very sick fisherman, and it, once sort of tests and things had been done, it was simply, I mean, and the fishermen aren't swimming in it, they're standing in it, but they even just maybe licking a fly and putting the fly back onto the fishing rod. That was the suggestion that had made this particular individual unwell.
Yeah.
But down, that group of people down on the Avon, I mean, that's consistently breaking barriers in terms of, levels of serious pollution. And yet this group of incredibly dedicated people are working as hard as they can to improve it, and they don't want to stop what they love doing. They don't want to stop being in the beautiful river and nature that they have there, but they want to look after it. And these are the veins of our country. We don't want them to be sick.
That's fantastic. So any plans for other tributaries or rivers in the pipeline? Or
we're thinking about the River Derwent,
right.
above Borrowdale. So we know that West Cumbria Rivers Trust has managed to get bathing water status for the Derwent water, and what we're looking to do is they've asked us to we engaged with them when they were showing a film, and we thought if we did that and then drew attention to that, it's very beautiful. It starts in the Langstrath Valley up above Borrowdale and then goes all the way down to Workington. So through Cockermouth, through both Derwent Water and Bassenthwaite. So it's only about 55 miles, I think, isn't it? It's a bit shorter. So maybe next year. But we live and swim on the Eden. That's our main, and that's where our focus on in terms of drawing attention to the condition of the river will be. But we rather like this idea of micro adventures. You don't have to fly, to Alaska to have a great adventure. You can have those on the doorstep.
Well, I think that's time for us, but thank you very much for joining us. It's fantastic. We'll make the recording available in the next few days. So share the link with everybody. I'm just going to share my screen now and just get a quick plug in. Thank you, Kirsty and Julia, for that. That was fascinating. I'm just going to plug the next talk on the 30th of November, which is on a Friday. It's changed from the Wednesday, for our Joe at talking about his land management there at Lowther. So we'll send you links to that as well. So do join us for that, and a short feedback form about today. What we did well, what we didn't do so well, so that we'll just improve things as we go along. This was our first talk, so we'll try some new things, no doubt. And with the beavers, I think there'll be lots of footage of them to be showing as well. So any feedback from you is gratefully received. And finally, thanks to Julia and Kirsty for such an inspiring talk. And we hope to see you all next time. Thank you.